WWE is expected to go hard after several AEW talents once their contracts expire with AEW later on this year. Speaking of contracts expiring, we've got an update on Kenny Omega and his contract status with All Elite Wrestling, with significant time being added on due to injuries he had previously sustained with the company. Jeff Hardy pleads no contest to his DUI, having his license revoked for a decade, plus avoiding jail time. We've got the ratings for this week's edition of AEW Dynamite on TBS. The Face of the Revolution ladder match will not be taking place at Revolution this year, rather on AEW Dynamite. Could Mercedes Monet walk through the forbidden door and into AEW? We've got details on that. AEW Fight Forever. Finally, do we have a release date for the AEW console video game? Also an update on AEW filing to trademark the All Access show they announced earlier this week. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation about the Wrestling Observer 2022 awards because social media is losing their mind over them. We've got updates on AEW injuries and also an update on another botched AEW trademark that they have since refiled. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. Let's start off talking about WWE sniffing around some AEW stars once their contracts expire later on this year. 2023 is going to be a big year for professional wrestling in general, whether it's the WWE sale, whether it's media rights negotiations for both WWE and AEW. And on top of that, you've got several big stars whose contracts with WWE and AEW are set to expire. So expect plenty of news this year, significant news that could really shape the future of professional wrestling for the next few years, certainly. Now, an update has emerged on WWE interest in some AEW names, with WWE reportedly expected to, quote, go hard for top names. It was recently reported that several names in WWE believe they'd have a chance at landing Kenny Omega after his AEW contract expires. Omega isn't the only AEW EVP who has an uncertain in-ring future, with Matt and Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks both working under deals that are set to expire later this year with AEW. Per Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, WWE is expected to go after many of the top names whose contracts are expiring this year. He said, quote, if WWE had buried Cody, then they would not have any shot at Kenny Omega. But they didn't, so they do. At least you say they have a shot. Tony Khan losing Kenny Omega from a perception point would be really bad. Kenny Omega is in a really good position. This is going to be a really interesting year for Tony. A lot of key deals are going to be up this year, and WWE is going to go hard at everyone good. There's going to be a lot of WWE deals up, and Tony Khan, needs to make the product and the perception of the product attractive enough where guys on the other side go, they're solid, they're financially stable, they have an easier schedule, they're doing good. Right now, I don't think the perception of WWE talent is to go there. That's the key thing, is the perception for WWE talent is like, hey, it's a fresh coat of paint for me, and I'm in the middle. Those guys, it's got to be the right guys for AEW. Of course, Cody Rhodes has been the opposite of buried within WWE. He is now going to headline WrestleMania against Roman Reigns for the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship after winning the men's 2023 Royal Rumble match. Now, of course, one of those names we just spoke about was Kenny Omega, the key name. Now, Kenny Omega's AEW contract reportedly has been extended due to injury time, but by how long is currently unknown. It was reported in this week's edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter by Dave Meltzer and expanded upon during Wrestling Observer Radio on Friday. Omega was out of action for roughly 9 months from November 2021 through August of last year, 2022, due to a variety of injuries that required both surgery and rehab. According to Meltzer, Omega's contract was set to expire on January 31st of this year. He originally signed a 4-year deal that started on February 1st, 2019, with no extension option. However, it did have an injury clause which enabled AEW to extend his deal. Meltzer said the amount of time being added, quote, hasn't been finalized, but that Omega, 1/3 of the reigning AEW World Trios champions, is working currently under a contract. He's not in a situation like Cody Rhodes was previously, where he actually wasn't working under a deal for a brief period of time before he exited AEW last year. Speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer said he didn't believe any additional time could be added due to his suspension following the all-out fight, but he wasn't 100% positive. Omega and the Young Bucks are going to defend their AEW World Trios titles against the House of Black at next Sunday's AEW Revolution pay-per-view, but his future is certainly up in the air. It's certainly interesting. Again, I think a lot of people, as Dave Meltzer mentioned in previous comments, are uncertain. I think Omega might be considering that going to WWE might be an option, considering Triple H is in charge of creative and talent contracts there. However, WWE, they've also got that big sale that could happen this year, and if Vince McMahon's back in control of creative, then maybe that swings the positioning back in the favor of AEW. One thing's for sure is there is a lot that is going to happen this year for big major contracts and big major news stories, so be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner so you don't miss a single thing. Now let's talk about Jeff Hardy. Of course, 2022, quite an eventful year for one half of the former Raw and SmackDown WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Every single title in WWE, Jeff Hardy basically won. Now, Jeff Hardy, AEW's Jeff Hardy, was arrested for a DUI in June of last year, with the subsequent court case having now come to an end. Hardy was arrested at 9:54 a.m. on June 13th, 2022 for 3 charges. They were violating restrictions placed on driving license, driving while license cancelled/suspended/revoked, DUI, alcohol/drugs, third offense within 10 years. Hardy's two blood alcohol tests after his arrest came in at 0.294 and 0.291. The legal limit in Florida, for reference, is 0.08, which means Hardy was more than 3 times the legal limit. He was actually exactly 3.7 times the legal limit at the time. In a report from February 24th, 2023, the Wrestling Observer revealed court records that show the case is now closed after Hardy submitted a written plea of nolo contendere to all charges. Now, nolo contendere translates from Latin as I do not wish to contend. It's a plea of no contest without entering a guilty plea or admitting one's guilt. According to the report, quote, Hardy's license will be suspended for the next decade and he will get 38 days credit for time served in county jail as part of his sentence. Per the report, the full sentence via Volusia County court records was, quote, a 38-day county jail sentence with 38 days credit for time served, 2 years probation, $4,586 in fines and court fees, a 10-year suspension of his license, 2 years with an interlock device and 90-day vehicle impoundment, court-mandated DUI school or drug rehab program, and community service. The pre-trial was beset with postponements following his not guilty plea. There's a ton of past stories that we've all covered here on the channel. It's also reported that on February 21st, Hardy's attorney sought to suppress the breath test results from the arrest, citing the unreliability. The attorney claimed that the intoxilizer was not inspected by Florida Highway Patrol in the month before Hardy was tested, violating Florida Department of Law Enforcement rules that the equipment must be inspected by an agency inspector at least once each calendar month. They would also claim that the equipment that was used exhibited significant signs of unreliability during tests and inspections, yet was neither fixed or removed from use. Hardy does remain a member of the AEW roster, though he will only be able to return from suspension, quote, upon successfully completing treatment and maintaining his sobriety. Now, when it comes to his brother, Matt Hardy, he's provided an update on his brother Jeff, and it is a positive one after, I guess, just narrowly avoiding jail time, even though he technically did get it, but it was with time served, so he didn't actually have to go to jail. Jeff Hardy, of course, hasn't been seen in AEW since being charged with his DUI, and on Thursday, his court case was closed after he pleaded no contest. We just spoken about all of the situations that were going on there. Now, Jeff's no contest plea means that he accepts conviction of the charge given to him, but doesn't officially accept or deny guilt. He was originally facing the possibility of spending up to 5 years in prison for his actions. After word got out about Jeff, Matt took to social media to express how happy he is for his younger brother, particularly his ability to hit the reset button on life. Quote, incredibly proud of my brother, Matt tweeted along with a vintage picture of the Hardy Boys. For the last 9 months, he's worked extraordinarily hard on himself. He's in the best space I've seen him in for decades. I'll always support him, believe in him, and love him. I'm excited for your new lease on life and where it takes you. As I mentioned, he was arrested over the summer of last year. Whilst they were right in the thick of things, the Hardy Boys in AEW, they were most likely, it was rumored and kind of reported that the Hardy Boys were going to become the AEW World Tag Team Champions because of Hardy's arrest and suspension and being made to go to rehab. They had to change things and they had to move in a different direction, and that's what they did. And now here's hoping that Jeff Hardy can reset his life and move on with it. I don't know if that's in pro wrestling, honestly. I don't know if I want to see him inside of a ring again. I just want Jeff Hardy to remain happy and sober and out of trouble. And I don't know if that and pro wrestling can go together for him, but we'll have to wait and see. We've got the ratings for this week's edition of AEW Dynamite, and after a difficult couple of weeks when it comes to the ratings, Dynamite seemingly is back on top. After a disappointing last week that saw the show draw the lowest rating it had in months, many were questioning what AEW Dynamite could do to regain some viewership momentum. As it turns out, all it needed was a healthy dose of top star Jon Moxley and a dash of the Dark Order's Evil Uno. According to WrestleNomics, the February 22nd episode of Dynamite, headlined by Moxley vs. Uno, drew 1.028 million total viewers and 454,000 viewers aged 18 to 49 for a 0.35 rating overall. Perhaps equally as important, Dynamite overall placed number 1 for the night in the key demographic according to Show Buzz Daily. Compared to last week's show, Dynamite was up 25% overall and a whopping 29% in the 18 to 49 demographic. Of course, it should be noted that Dynamite did receive some help this week as it went against no NBA competition for the first time since October. The league remained on hiatus for its All-Star break. Nevertheless, AEW will surely be pleased with these numbers, its highest 18 to 49 since September 21st and its highest overall viewership since October 5th. This is not the first time Dynamite has done over 1 million viewers this year. However, the Dynamite debut of Mark Briscoe on January 25 did a 1.003 million total viewers with a 0.32 18 to 49 rating. AEW will now hope that there'll be a similar bump for Rampage after last Friday's show drew a record low viewership after being preempted by the first night of NBA All-Star Weekend. Rampage will return to its normal time slot last night on TNT, featuring the Young Bucks battling Aussie Open. I don't expect much. I expect it to improve, but to see a significant bump, I'm not sure. But again, they'll be happy with that. AEW, again, it'll be interesting to see how much the important announcement played into that, and honestly, how much that can even work again in the future after the announcement wasn't all that important that got revealed by Tony Khan. Now, among Chris Jericho's many self-proclaimed monikers, Million Viewer Man and Demo God are most relevant this week, of course, with this week's Dynamite cracking the 1 million mark in viewership for the first time since January, not to mention achieving its highest overall rating since October 2022. Jericho had every reason to feel braggadocious on social media. He tweeted, quote, "We're number 1, back on top, baby, hashtag AEW Dynamite, hashtag Demo God." Jericho tweeted shortly after the release of AEW's viewership figures. Now, Jericho referring to himself as the Demo God is relevant, albeit for 1 week, seeing as Dynamite achieved its highest 18 to 49 key demo rating since the Grand Slam episode last year. Jericho had originally filed to trademark the moniker of Demo God after AEW's flagship show topped the key demo charts in August 2020. That said, it's been a while since Jericho has been able to brag about AEW dominating the cable key demos. Over the past few months, the promotion has struggled to top the cable top 150 charts, a regular occurrence in 2020 and 2021 and 2022. In fact, even the Jay Briscoe Memorial episode of Dynamite, which racked in over 1 million viewers, it was at number 3 in the cable top 150 charts. The key demo rating has been something of a struggle for AEW this year. So again, I think overall they will be happy with that. Now, speaking about Chris Jericho has explained why Tony Khan only occasionally appears on television in a new interview. Appearing on Busted Open Radio, Chris Jericho commented about Tony Khan's announcement on Dynamite of the new series AEW All Access that left quite a few underwhelmed. After Bully Ray wondered why the announcement was made in a pre-recorded segment instead of the live crowd, which definitely shouldn't have happened. I don't think the announcement should have happened at all. Jericho responded, quote, "I think probably Tony's very careful on how he presents himself on camera. So I think that's probably it. I think he likes to kind of put the spotlight on the wrestlers, which is why he had Adam Cole do the announcement, and I think he's probably more comfortable doing things that way in the back where you can have a couple of takes." Now, every show, Tony comes out before the show and riles up the crowd and gets them pumped up and excited. But when it comes to corporate general manager, owner type stuff, he wants to put the focus on to his players the same way he does with the Jacksonville Jaguars and with the Fulham Football Club in London. I think he just feels more comfortable that way as an executive. And he should, because Tony Khan's promos aren't the best. And every time he does appear on camera, he gets mocked anyway. So probably best for everyone involved. Now, a bit of a change for AEW Revolution this year. Staple of the event has been the face of the Revolution ladder match, but it's actually not going to be on the pay-per-view this year. On last night's AEW Rampage main event, a preview match of the upcoming AEW face of the Revolution ladder match featuring Action Andretti taking on Sammy Guevara. In the end, Sammy Guevara won. However, elsewhere on the show, an announcement about a major change to the 2023 edition of the landmark match was made. Instead of being held at the Revolution pay-per-view, the AEW face of the Revolution Revolution ladder match will instead be on this week's edition of AEW Dynamite. Also announced for Dynamite in the ladder match itself, the debut of high-flying luchador, as noted on commentary, Commander, Tony Khan tweeted about the debut, saying it's official. Commander will debut in AEW this Wednesday on TBS on the last Wednesday night's AEW Dynamite on the road to Revolution, fighting in the face of the Revolution ladder match. Thank you everyone watching AEW Rampage on TNT right now. We're off to a hot start tonight. Also announced for the match to compete for a shot at the TNT title are Ortiz, Eddie Kingston, AR Fox, Powerhouse Hobbs, Action Andretti, Konosuke Takeshita, and Sammy Guevara. It also was mentioned that Samoa Joe will be on commentary for the match, which should be entertaining, but interesting that it's not on Revolution this year. Now, Mercedes Moné has, of course, been very busy recently, winning titles and signing with talent agencies, but is she ever going to end up in AEW? Well, Moné is the title holder in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and it's led to many to wonder about her possibly appearing on AEW programming down the line. Mike Johnson of PW Insider reports that if Moné wants to be featured in the AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door pay-per-view later this year, she can do so. In terms of doing something more long-term with AEW, Johnson said the sense is that it isn't a priority for Moné. Last month, Dave Meltzer was on Wrestling Observer Radio and said he knows people within WWE who strongly believe that Moné will not be wrestling in AEW. He also said part of the reason why Moné isn't exactly gung-ho about AEW is that she'd have to make a long-term commitment, which she doesn't really want to do. In the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Meltzer reported that Moné is only on the books for 2 more dates of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and her opponents have already been decided. The first challenger for Moné's IWGP Women's Championship will be AZM and at Sakura Genesis on April 8. The next opponent will be Mayu Iwatani for a show in Yokohama, Japan on April 23. Despite being on the books for just 2 more dates, Moné has expressed interest in having a tag team match alongside reigning IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Kazuchika Okada. Moné has commented about wanting to go on a world tour, so perhaps there is more in store for Moné past New Japan Pro Wrestling. She also told TV Insider that she is a free agent and she can appear on Impact Wrestling or somewhere in Mexico, Europe, or other parts of the world. She also mentioned AEW and CMLL's New Japan affiliation. So it's possible, but she doesn't want to commit long-term to AEW, which would make sense considering everything else she's got going on right now. Now, one of the biggest mysteries in pro wrestling is this Fight Forever release date. Have we finally got an update as to when this game is going to come out? Now, as of recording, AEW Games has not shared an official release date for Fight Forever, despite the game first being announced way back when in November 2020. It has now been pointed out that Best Buy has updated the listing for the game on all platforms. Following the update, AEW Fight Forever is listed to release on March 31st. As previously mentioned, AEW has yet to confirm this. It had been reported by Andrew Zarian that the game was slated for a Q2 release, which would have meant April, May, or June. Speaking on the Swerve City podcast, Kenny Omega confirmed the game's delayed release was due to issues trying to scale the content down in order to get a teen rating from ESRB. If this release date becomes official, AEW Fight Forever will be one of 2 major wrestling console games releasing in March. Of course, WWE 2K23 is slated for release on March 17 or March 14 for those who pre-ordered the deluxe edition. So again, this could just be websites doing placeholders. That is a possibility, but we'll have to wait and see. Are we finally going to get that release date that people have been waiting for? Now, the reality show, yes, AEW All Access, that caused a bit of controversy this week. This week's AEW Dynamite saw Tony Khan and Adam Cole announce a new reality show called AEW All Access, which will debut on TBS next month. The company let viewers know that Khan would have big news to share during last week's episode of Rampage, but the promotion's head honcho may not have finalized his plans when the Dynamite segment was initially promoted. According to PW Insider, AEW filed for the All Access trademark on February 20, just 2 days before this week's edition of Dynamite aired on TBS. However, despite the seemingly rushed nature to file the trademark ahead of the show, it's been reported that All Access has been planned for a while, albeit in different iterations. Filming for the series had reportedly began when Cody Rhodes exited the company to rejoin WWE, which was almost 1 year ago. On Dynamite, Cole revealed that All Access will provide an unfiltered look at AEW's competitors in and out of the ring. He promised fans that the show will see him tell his story, presumably in relation to his injury recovery process in recent months. That said, details about the show are unknown at the moment, besides the fact that it's a reality series that will give viewers more insight into the lives of the promotion stars. Furthermore, the fact that Warner Bros. Discovery is interested in new AEW content can only bode well for the company. Khan is set to enter fresh contract talks with the entertainment conglomerate regarding AEW's next TV deal, and this suggests that WBD is still high on the promotion and will most likely re-up on their deal with AEW. Now, when there was a press release about this All Access show this week, there was a lining it from the WBD executives that caught fans' attention online for how ridiculous it was. Now, the release noted a quote from Jason Sarnalis, president for Turner Networks, Investigation, Discovery, and Headline News, Linear, and Streaming. What a title that is, by the way. The quote began with, quote, AEW has such an amazingly loyal fan base that brings more than 4 million viewers to TBS every Wednesday night, which confused some. Let me read that again. AEW has such an amazingly loyal fan base that brings more than 4 million viewers to TBS every Wednesday night. With viewership hotly debated on Twitter endlessly, most fans know that AEW Dynamite does not get a Nielsen rating of 4 million viewers on any given Wednesday. They've never done that. They've never got anywhere near that. So where is that figure coming from? Well, ask and you shall receive, as Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics reached out to Warner Bros. Discovery for comment and was provided some clarification. According to a tweet from Thurston, quote, I'm told the measurement pertains to viewers who watched at least 1 minute of TBS on Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. each week on average in 2022. A WBD spokesperson told WrestleNomics, we attribute most of that success to AEW Dynamite. So they're basically saying anyone that watches TBS for a minute from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m., never mind the fact that AEW Dynamite airs from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., that counts. That counts. So the lead-in and the post-show, they all count because of AEW Dynamite. That's a bit odd, and that's just one of those situations whereby networks will stretch stuff out just to make sure they can get anything they wanted there. That was just, for me, absolutely bizarre. Now, speaking of bizarre, let's talk about the Wrestling Observer 2022 awards. Yes. Now, more Wrestling Observer newsletter awards have been revealed as Dave Meltzer gives out his plaudits for 2022, or certainly his readers do. I think that's fair. From the new issue of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, the Category A and B awards are as follows. The Category A awards saw the winners determined by voters' first, second, third picks, with the picks being awarded 5, 3, and 2 points respectively. The Wrestler of the Year was Jon Moxley. The Most Outstanding Wrestler was Will Ospreay. The Tag Team of the Year was FTR. The Best on Interviews was MJF. The Promotion of the Year was AEW. The Best Weekly TV Show was AEW Dynamite. The Pro Wrestling Match of the Year was Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay on August 18 in Tokyo. The Category B Awards saw winners determined by first place votes. Now, United States and Canada MVP Jon Moxley, Japanese MVP Kazuchika Okada, Mexico MVP El Hijo del Vikingo, Europe MVP Will Ospreay, Hodge Award non-heavyweight MVP was El Hijo del Vikingo, Women's Wrestling MVP was Shuri, Best Box Office Draw Roman Reigns, Feud of the Year FTR versus Mark and Jay Briscoe, Most Improved The Acclaimed, Most Charismatic MJF, Bryan Danielson Award, which is the Best Technical Wrestler, was Bryan Danielson, the Bruiser Brody Memorial Award, which is Best Brawler, went to Jon Moxley. Best Flying Wrestler was El Hijo del Vikingo. Most Overrated, Ronda Rousey. Most Underrated, Konosuke Takeshita. Rookie of the Year, Bron Breakker. Best Non-Race Wrestler was Paul Heyman. Best Television Announcer, Kevin Kelly. Worst Television Announcer, Corey Graves. Best Major Wrestling Show, Forbidden Door. Worst Major Wrestling Show, Royal Rumble 2022. Best Wrestling Maneuver, Will Ospreay's Hidden Blade. Most Disgusting Promotional Tactic, WWE Vince McMahon appearing on television for a crowd pop after sexual misconduct allegations came out. Worst television show, Monday Night Raw. Worst match of the year, Pat McAfee versus Vince McMahon at WrestleMania. Worst feud of the year, The Miz versus Dexter Lumis. Worst promotion of the year, WWE. Best booker of the year, Tony Khan. Promoter of the year, Tony Khan. Best gimmick, Sami Zayn. Worst gimmick, Maximum Male Models. Best pro wrestling book, Blood and Fire by Brian Solomon. Best pro wrestling documentary, Tales from the Territories, Lawler/Kaufman. Now, obviously, what I will say is clearly, one, that's not Meltzer giving out those awards, in fairness to him. But two, clearly a lot of his fans are AEW fans, and they are very, very slanted. Some of those awards are ridiculous. But they're just that. They're awards. They're people's opinions. It really, 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 really doesn't matter. Got an update on a couple of injuries as well, and as one would expect, Anna Jay, when she did that big bump off the stage, she got injured, kind of. Now, the last match she had was on Rampage, on the January 13 edition of Rampage. She teamed up with Tay Mello and faced off against Willow Nightingale and Ruby Soho in a street fight that was way too brutal for Rampage, especially with no real story there. Now, the match featured an unfortunate bump where Willow hit Anna with a powerbomb off the stage. She overshot the table, with Anna taking a rough bump onto the floor. Anna reflected on the match on Twitter when one fan speculated that Anna suffered a bruised tailbone in the spot. She replied saying she did not suffer a bruised tailbone, but did dislocate some ribs, saying, quote, "No bruised tailbone, but I did have some dislocated ribs. Not fun." So after a lot of people saying she was fine after that, she wasn't fine. She dislocated her ribs. Now, in addition to that, Fuego del Sol also revealed that he suffered a foot injury last Sunday in a very bizarre way. I won't go into the full story, but it's described as a freak accident. It was in Sacramento where he was having a match and someone fell on the top of his foot. It's a nasty one. Go check out his social media because you can kind of see the actual aftermath of it. It's rough. Finally, there was this story recently about AEW filing a trademark, but they botched the spelling of the trademark. It's insane. On February 15, AEW filed to trademark the term AEW Collision. It was speculated that this was a botch because it was spelled C-O-L-L-I-S-O-N, which isn't how you spell collision. Many assumed that the company wanted to utilize the term AEW Collision, which is spelled C-O-L-L-I-S-I-O-N. Sure enough, AEW has now filed to trademark the latter term, filing for AEW Collision, spelled the right way. That was on February 20. Per the trademark filing, AEW plans to use this term for educational and entertainment services related to a continuing program about wrestling. And it's just, how did that get through? Of all the people, all the lawyers and all that kind of stuff, did no one say that's not how you spell collision? Did the red squiggly line not come underneath that one? I don't know. But there you go, guys. It's the latest AEW news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's AEW news stories in the comment section below. Remember, you can join the WN365 roster by clicking that join button, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.